There we are.
Add us to the stream.
Yeah, my bad.
Hello, hello. Okay, I think I found.
Hey, there you are. We got Tex and Sarah and Freddie and Ray and Cheese.
Rock City Auditor. Lori. Barbara.
Nice.
B Squared. Amanda. Melissa. Lori.
Liberty Freak.
Liberty Freak. What's up, Liberty? Mike Taylor. Rob C.
Good morning, people. 95, man.
Ghost shirt, I think.
Yeah.
Angie B. Mark. New Mexico citizen. Michigan woodsman.
You do that and grab my coffee.
Miss Blank. Turtle green guy. George.
Hey, Turtle.
And now my thing stopped working. This headset sometimes just stops.
Other times it's epic.
Yeah, not so bueno.
All right. You guys are punctual.
Grand Theft, hello. Craigslist. Jen. Liberty Freak email address is insightisfree@gmail.com. Should be in the description of most, if not all, of the videos.
Yeah.
So, yesterday was crazy.
Right?
Little crazy town banana pants. Yeah. I don't know. Some hooligans chasing me around town, but making threats and whatnot. And again, law enforcement say, "Oh, we can do nothing." So it's just the complicit nature of the law enforcement here is over the top. The KKK Act is a thing for a reason, and it's because of this, because of people that do crimes, and the cops are in cahoots or in collusion, or they're read in on the crimes and they do nothing to stop it. They look the other way and they don't hold them accountable. So, yeah. So there's like zero confidence in the local law enforcement and the DA's office and the local, district court and the judges. And that's what we're here to talk about this morning, is what we've done and then what you guys can do if anybody wants to try to help with this ADA Showdown tomorrow, Americans with Disabilities Act Showdown with Chris Freeman out of Rockingham County District Court. So again, that the court case is scheduled for 9 a.m. tomorrow. And if you want to come out and support, we're going to be out there around 8:30. The Rockingham County Justice Center. But we have tried to address it with Chris Freeman directly, the ways that he's breaking state and federal law as far as discrimination towards a qualified person with disabilities. He's issued threats, coercion, and intimidation, saying that he'll hold me in criminal contempt if I go to court with my devices and use them like I normally do. We've tried to get the sheriff's department to do their job and hold Chris Freeman accountable because he's violating state law. It's North Carolina General Statute 68A. That's the anti-discrimination law that he's breaking, in addition to numerous federal laws, a bunch of subsections of the ADA. There's also, I think it's 42 USC 12203. That one you guys may not be familiar with. 42 USC 12203. It's another federal law that Chris Freeman is breaking. You also have the when you're familiar with 18 USC 241 and 242.
Conspiracy to deprive rights?
Yeah.
18.
Under the color of law, yeah. 18 USC 241 and 242, yeah. And then a whole mess of the Americans with Disabilities Act, all kinds of subsections that he's breaking. So, again, we try to handle it with him directly. The sheriff's department laughed at us and said, good luck, go get a lawyer. So they're not willing to enforce the law against a local judge. So then we went to the state level. So like, well, maybe there's checks and balances at the state level, right? We weren't holding our breath. So we went to the state legislators for Rockingham County and let them know the situation. And they said, oh, we don't know what to do. We can maybe make some phone calls, on your behalf and maybe let other people know, maybe they can stop it. So we called the Attorney General's office and let them know what's going on. Haven't heard back from them. I believe we did something online with the Attorney General's office. We talked to the governor's office, let them know, and somebody from the governor's office said, oh, you need to talk to the Judicial Review Committee or Judicial Review Board. So we got in contact with them. We put in the judicial complaint against James Freeman out of Rockingham County. And then they convened on September 11th and got back to us and said, oh, we don't have the jurisdiction to do anything to stop him. I believe because, he's breaking multiple federal laws. And it's just a judicial review committee. So even if they had quote unquote jurisdiction, if they've given themselves jurisdiction, then all they can really do is say, bad judge, they can't, I don't think they can go in and stop him. They don't have executive powers to go in and do anything to stop the actual active crimes that he's committing. And so then who does? The executive branch. That'd be the governor's office, right? And law enforcement. We already tried local law enforcement and county law enforcement, the sheriff's department, and they're in cahoots, right?
Right. Because
this case is based off of local law enforcement violating our rights, right? And that's the whole thing, is them saying that I quote unquote, resisted an officer because I wouldn't provide ID as a passenger in a car on private property. So it's nonsensical. They have no probable cause. And so the DA's office is in cahoots, right? Because they're still pursuing this frivolous case without probable cause.
On private property that we have confirmed is open to the public,
right,
and public are welcome to use it.
Right.
Just to clarify.
So we have all these different local entities and people in these local entities in cahoots with this conspiracy to deprive rights. So then we go to the FBI, right? Because it's a bunch of civil rights violations all over the place. Right. And the Civil Rights Division of the FBI. We let them know what's going on. And then we ask them, hey, do you think it would be beneficial to talk to the SBI, the State Bureau of Investigation for North Carolina? And they said, yeah, go ahead. It wouldn't hurt. So we give them a call. And the person I talked to didn't sound very competent. They said, we can't get jurisdiction unless local law enforcement and or the DA's office asks us to do an investigation. Well, they're all in cahoots. They're the ones that we're complaining about. So they're not going.
Which is insane. They're not going to ask the SBI to come and investigate them.
Right.
Come on.
Right. So I didn't know if the guy on the phone I was talking to actually knew what they're talking about. So I when I was in Raleigh with NC Tyrant Hunter a couple weeks ago, he dropped me off and I went to go find the State Bureau Investigation office and talk to somebody there. And that they told me the same thing, that they don't have jurisdiction unless local law enforcement or the DA's office asks them to do the investigation. I told them, well, that's the ones that I need to do the investigation on. So them and this judge, the State Bureau of Investigation, right, the SBI. Right. So they're not doing anything. So there is no checks or balances as far as the executive branch goes. That's what we found out through the state of North Carolina. When it comes to a judge breaking the law, the judiciary wouldn't really be checks and balances. It would just be somebody higher up in the judiciary checking this judge. And now there's ways of doing that where you file injunctions at the federal level, right? Or you appeal to a higher court, to another judge, to stop this judge, right? And I've been trying to find a disability rights attorney that is willing to assist with that, and unsuccessfully.
Because people in the state, like, they don't want to go against the judges.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's
It's pretty common that if you're an attorney locally, that you don't want to go against the judges that you see on a regular basis.
right.
Yeah. So we've been trying to find somebody to help with that on that end, on the judicial side. From the legislative side, what can the legislative branch do? Well, you think, what kind of checks and balances do they have? What kind of separation of powers clause is in the Constitution for North Carolina? It's just basically the same as in the U.S. Constitution. And that there's some checks and balances in place where the legislative branch can check the executive branch and the judiciary, just like the executive branch can check the judiciary and the legislative, and the judiciary can check the executive and the legislative. So when we were talking to the legislators, just for Rockingham County, they're like, "Oh, we don't know what to do. Maybe we can make some phone calls," right? That's the best they could offer. And we actually tracked down one of the staffers when we were in Raleigh, and he said, "Yeah, I called the AG's office on your behalf, and I thought you would have heard back from them." Well, we hadn't heard back from them. So, yeah, that's about it as far as we know that they've done, is maybe made some phone calls and they didn't go anywhere. So I started checking the North Carolina Constitution. Somebody referenced me to Kirk's Law Corner on YouTube. Kirk's Law Corner on YouTube. So I'm going to find the link for that. And they talk about different ways to hold the government accountable using the systems that they have in place. And one of the things they talked about is a remonstrance. Remonstrance is basically an official petition or official protest that you put in like written form that you can submit to the legislative branch, to the General Assembly, to the state legislators, to for whatever reason you want to put your petition in writing, you want to protest against your local city government or police force or a judge in this case, then go for it. So that's what we did. We drafted a remonstrance and emailed and filed it with the North Carolina General Assembly, all of the House of Representatives and the senators.
A long list, y'all.
Yeah. And we also added the Attorney General and the Governor's Office, Lieutenant Governor's Office, and of course the clerks for both the House and the Senate in North Carolina. So if you guys remember anything about civics, the way that the legislative branch has checking power, right? Checks and balances, a separation of powers in order to check the other branches. One, they can make laws, right? They can make laws to say, hey, threatening or coercing or intimidating a person with disability is illegal. Well, guess what? It already is a law in the state and it's federal law. So asking them to make another law isn't the kind of checking power that we want, because there's already laws that this quote unquote judge, Chris Freeman, is breaking. And so another law is not going to help, right? What's the other ways that
Rewind, try again.
What are the other ways that the legislative branch can check the judiciary or the executive branch? Well, they have the power of impeachment, right? They have the sole power to impeach, right? It's with the House of Representatives. The Senate is the courthouse, essentially acts as the courthouse, and the House of Representatives has the power to impeach judges, justices, governor, lieutenant governor, right? They can impeach any elected official. So our remonstrance that we sent in last week to the North Carolina state legislators, the General Assembly, was to impeach Chris Freeman, this quote unquote judge out of Rockingham County. So we filed it with their clerks and sent it to all of the representatives and the senators, and demanded that they impeach Chris Freeman and put a stay on his illegal and unconstitutional orders, that are discriminatory against me. So I'll let Mrs. Justice read the remonstrance.
We have super chat
Okay.
from Michael Carter. He says, thank you for what you do. I'm in a wheelchair and struggle with ADA violations all the time.
Yeah. Thanks, Mike.
Hey, man. Appreciate it. Appreciate it. I'm supposed to read the remonstrance. One moment, please. I'm pulling up this other stuff.
All right. So she's going to go through this remonstrance with you guys, and then she'll share some links for the General Assembly contact information. I guess if you want to put that in the chat, you can, and then mods can take it, and I don't know if they can copy and paste, but hopefully they can.
They are wizards.
So
okay, so let's see. This is the House Representatives, and there's like pages. I mean, like pages and pages of this. Representatives. There's and the Senate.
So this is the North Carolina General Assembly, the legislators, the House of Representatives, and the senators. So they have a duty to respond to this. They can't just ignore it. They have to respond to it. And it's, to do their job dutifully, then they need to actually act on it and say, oh, wow, yeah, this judge is breaking the law. And here's all the ways that, they are responsible, now that they have been made aware of this judge's criminal activity, to take action. So the appropriate thing and the dutiful, responsible thing for them to do is to order a stay of this judge's order and his actions against me, and then inform him that they're going to have a hearing, an impeachment hearing, where he is the subject, of the impeachment. So we're kind of letting him know right now via our video. So Chris Freeman, you have an impeachment probably coming down the road. So just be aware. But what we're asking for you guys to do, listen to the remonstrance. She's going to read it to you guys. And then, I don't know, she can probably figure out a way to post it somewhere to the community page. So you guys can reference it. Facebook page.
I'll probably post it to Facebook and then link it in the community page, because YouTube doesn't let me link like files and stuff.
Okay.
Skywatcher gave us a super chat. I hope you are successful in your endeavors. These people are corrupt to the core.
Yeah, Skywatcher. Thank you.
Appreciate it. Yeah, so you have those phone numbers, and we always want you to be informed and make your own decisions about things. Like,
right.
Don't just take our word for it, which is why we're going to read this to you and give you access. Fair Shake, thinking of you guys. Thanks for the super chat.
Hey, thanks, Fair Shake. Yeah, so she's going to put all the information out so you guys will have it. And then if you want to make phone calls or email some of these legislators or the clerks for the House and the Senate, because they're supposed to respond, receive, and file, and then let the General Assembly, let the body know, like, hey, there's an action that we need to take, right? So that's on the clerks. And they were also on the 2 line for this when we filed it. So she's going to go ahead and read this to you guys. So bear with us. If you want, I don't know if you can share the screen or not. Or if
I can. Let's see. Is there anything I don't want to share on here? I think I can do that. Hang on, guys. And they can read along with me.
Yeah.
Assuming they can see it because it's so little. Google Docs? I'm not sure. All right. Here you go. All right. This is the remonstrance. This is so little. Ladies and gentlemen of the North Carolina General Assembly, I'm a blind veteran whose civil rights are being crushed by local law enforcement, district attorneys, and the Rockingham District Court judge named Chris Freeman. I use many assistive devices to help me participate equally in daily life. In addition to my vision loss, I have memory loss and PTSD, and I use body cameras as my replacement eyes and memory. The cameras help me feel more secure while out in public and have captured video evidence of assailants. The audio recordings are my primary form of note-taking. I'm submitting this email to the body and to the clerks as my official remonstrance against Chris Freeman, and I call for you to issue a stay on his unlawful orders against me and to impeach Chris Freeman on the grounds enumerated below and supported by the attached documents. As I am blind, I am making an Americans with Disabilities Act, ADA, request that the clerks process this remonstrance in its digital form rather than whatever is the normal procedure. From the North Carolina Constitution, Article 4, Section 4, Court for the Trial of Impeachments. The House of Representatives solely shall have the power of impeaching. The court for the trial of impeachments shall be the Senate. When the governor or lieutenant governor is impeached, the chief justice shall preside over the court. A majority of the members shall be necessary to a quorum, and no persons shall be convicted without the concurrence of 2/3 of the senators present. Judgment upon conviction shall not extend beyond removal from the disqualification to hold office in this state, but the party shall be liable and indictment and punishable according to law. Let me see if I make this bigger. Section 17, removal of judges, magistrates, and clerks. Removal of the judge by the General Assembly. Any justice or judge in the General Court of Justice may be removed from office for mental or physical incapacity by joint resolution of 2/3 of all members of each house of the General Assembly. Any justice or judge against whom the General Assembly may be about to proceed shall receive notice thereof, accompanied by a copy of the causes alleged for his removal, at least 20 days before the day on which either House or General Assembly shall act thereon. Removal from office by the General Assembly for any other cause shall be by impeachment. 2. Additional method of removal by judges. The General Assembly shall prescribe a procedure in addition to the impeachment and address set forth in this section for the removal of a justice or judge of the General Court of Justice for mental or physical incapacity interfering with the performance of his duties, which is or is likely to become permanent, and for the censure and removal of a justice or judge of the General Court of Justice for willful misconduct in office, willful and persistent failure to perform his duties, habitual intemperance, conviction of a crime involving moral turpitude, or conduct prejudicial to the administration of justice that brings the judicial office into disrepute. From the North Carolina General Statutes, 123-5, causes for impeachment. Each member of the Council of State, each justice of the General Court of Justice, each judge in the General Court of Justice shall be liable to impeachment for the commission of a felony or the commission of any misdemeanor involving moral turpitude, or for malfeasance in office, or for willful neglect of duty. And it has codes listed. The grievance. On February 21st, 2020, Madison police attacked me and my wife while we were sitting in our van in a church parking lot around 9:40 p.m. The officers unlawfully entered our van after approximately 25 threats of violence. The officers didn't inform us of the reason they were stopping us. The officers eventually arrested me, the blind passenger, because I wouldn't give them identification. Somehow, the magistrate bought off on a resisting an officer charge, and they locked me up in the Rockingham County Jail. The police, magistrate, and jailers all refused my ADA request for modification. I believe this is due to lack of training and education on the ADA and how to properly accommodate for people with disabilities. In jail, the jailer stripped me naked, stole my dark glasses, hat, and white cane, and left me in a bright isolation cell. They told me they placed me on suicide watch, and they refused to give me any medical care. The DA's office is continuing to pursue the frivolous charge against me when they have no probable cause that I committed any crime. I merely knew and asserted my rights. I called the Rockingham County Courthouse and asked if they had a ban on electronics, as many courthouses have in North Carolina. Banning electronics and recording devices in the courts makes the courts not open to the public, and it violates the First Amendment of the U.S. Constitution. Once the clerk told me there was a ban on electronics, I made an ADA request to allow me equal access to the courts with my assistive devices. Vicki Underwood, the ADA coordinator for the court, improperly and illegally denied my request over the phone. She instructed me to make the request in person at the courthouse. At the courthouse, Stephanie Reese of the district attorney's office also improperly and illegally denied my ADA request for equal access. She prevented me from attending my court hearing. Although one of the district attorneys denied me access, the prosecutor still asked the judge to issue a warrant for my arrest for failing to appear. It was the DA's office that prevented me from appearing. The judge didn't issue the warrant, and the case was continued. I submitted a written ADA request to the court via my attorney, but Judge Chris Freeman improperly and illegally denied my request. In his denial, Chris Freeman threatened me with criminal contempt if I dare attempt to attend my court hearing with my assistive devices. This is not only a violation of the Americans with Disabilities Act, see the ways how in the attachments, but it also violates other state and federal laws and is a due process violation and an affront to civil disability rights and the U.S. Constitution. See 42 U.S. Code 12203, Prohibition against Retaliation and Coercion. A retaliation. No person shall discriminate against any individual because such individual has opposed any act or practice made unlawful by this chapter, or because such individual made a charge, testified, assisted, or participated in any manner of an investigation, proceeding, or hearing under this chapter. B. Interference, coercion, or intimidation. It shall be unlawful to coerce, intimidate, threaten, or interfere with any individual in the exercise or enjoyment of, or on account of his or her having exercised or enjoyed, or on account of his or her having aided or encouraged any other individual in the exercise or enjoyment of any right granted or protected by this chapter. See also 18 U.S. Code 241, Conspiracy Against Rights. If two or more persons conspire to injure, oppress, threaten, or intimidate any person in the United States, territory, commonwealth, possession, or district in the free exercise of enjoyment of any right or privilege secured to him by the Constitution or laws of the United States, or because of his having so exercised the same, or if two or more persons go in disguise on the highway or on the premise of another with the intent to prevent or hinder his free exercise or enjoyment of any right or privilege so secured. What?
That sounded the two more people in disguise trying to hinder execution of rights sounds like what's been happening in medicine.
Yeah. Okay. It absolutely does. Yeah. They shall be fined under this title or imprisoned not more than 10 years or both. And if death results from the acts committed in violation of this section, or if such acts include kidnapping or an attempt to kidnap, aggravated sexual abuse, or an attempt to commit aggravated sexual abuse, or an attempt to kill, they shall be fined under this title or imprisoned for any term of years or for life, or both, or may be sentenced to death. Woo.
So that also applies to Chris Freeman because he's threatening to kidnap me, right? He's threatening to hold me in criminal contempt, which means most likely they'll order a bailiff to put cuffs on me and then throw me in jail, right? So that's kidnapping. So.
Mm-hmm. Sorry, I'm checking something.
You can also make an argument that he's in disguise, like when he puts on his robe, that he's putting on a disguise in order to use the color of law to issue these threats, to do his criminal activity. So.
True.
Yeah.
Let's see. I just read that one. See also 18 U.S. Code 242, deprivation of rights under the color of law.
Mm-hmm.
Whoever under the color of any law, statute, ordinance, regulation, or custom willfully subjects any person in the state's territory, commonwealth, possession, or district to the deprivation of any rights, privileges, or immunities secured or protected by the Constitution or laws of the United States, or to different punishments, pains, or penalties on account of such persons being an alien or by reason of his color or race, then are prescribed for the punishment of citizens shall be fined under this title or imprisoned not more than 1 year or both. And if bodily injury results from the acts committed in violation of this section, and if such acts include the use, attempted use, or threatened use of a dangerous weapon, explosives, or fire, shall be fined under this title or imprisoned not more than 10 years or both. And if death results from the acts committed in violation of this section, or if such acts include kidnapping or an attempt to kidnap, aggravated sexual abuse, or an attempt to commit aggravated sexual abuse, or an attempt to kill, shall be fined under this title or imprisoned for a term of years or of life, or both, or maybe sentenced to death. So kidnapping you from your car for exercising your rights, that would be deprivation of rights under the color of law because they were in cop costumes.
Yep.
And claiming
and the magistrate's complicit, and the supervisors were complicit, and the jailers were complicit, and the DA's office is now complicit. And now this Chris Freeman guy is now complicit.
All right. Let me see something real quick. Whoops. Hey. That's better. Of course, now I'm lost. Give me a second, guys. Blah, blah, blah. All right. These blatant human and civil rights violations committed by local law enforcement, the DA's office, the jailers, the magistrates, and Judge Chris Freeman must cease and never happen to anyone else. The General Assembly has recognized that discriminating against qualified persons with disabilities is unconscionable. Please reference NCGS 168A. If all able-bodied persons have the right to bring their own notes and court preparation materials and have the right to take their own notes during court proceedings, then the disabled populations has the same right to equal access. Chris Freeman is blocking me from equal enjoyment of these basic rights to due process by threatening me to not bring my notes, materials, and take note-taking devices. Sorry. I have attempted to redress these grievances with the offending parties, with the Rockingham County Sheriff's Office, the North Carolina Administration of the Courts, the state legislatures, the Judicial Review Committee, the Attorney General's Office, the Governor's Office, the State Bureau of Investigations, the Federal Bureau of Investigations, Civil Rights Division, and the U.S. DOJ over ADA violations. I haven't been able to find any relief, which leads me to lose faith in the system of checks and balances, separation of powers, the government is supposed to operate under. The relief. I am asking that the General Assembly order a stay on Chris Freeman's orders and threats against me, and that you impeach him for his many crimes against me, a qualified person with disabilities. I also want the Assembly to add some enforcement clauses in the general statutes to better protect the disabled population. Currently, there is nothing stopping this criminal judge from continuing to threaten, coerce, and intimidate me and any other person with a disability. I further ask that the General Assembly make the North Carolina courts open to the public and make it a criminal offense for judges to ban the use of recording devices during proceedings. The people have the right to know what is happening in the public courts. Just a second. Oh, well, it's okay. There is much video and audio evidence about the aforementioned crimes and the current state of affairs regarding the lack of training and education public officials had in regards to the ADA and dealing with the people with disabilities found here. There's a link to the Blind Justice page. I'm happy to speak with any of you on the phone, through text, or email. And then there's contact information at the bottom. There you go. That's the whole remonstrance. And then there's a supporting documents that
Okay.
I think they've...
All right. So there you go. She's going to work on putting that up so you guys can have it and reference it. You can get the different codes that we're citing, the different parts of the North Carolina Constitution that we cited, that basically tells the legislators, this is your job. Yeah. There's an interesting part in the, I'll have to find that too for you guys. There's an interesting part of the North Carolina Constitution when it talks about the legislative branch. I think it's in the very beginning of the legislative section, the article that covers the legislators, and it says it's the people's job to instruct the legislators. Like, that's the language in the North Carolina Constitution, that it's our job to instruct the legislators. Right? I have to find it. It's really, I listened to it the other day and I'm like, wow, okay, yeah. This is ideally, right, the theoretical way that the government is supposed to be set up. And it's showing that it's not that way. There aren't any checks and balances that we've found so far in the government of North Carolina. And so this is kind of like the last ditch effort to remind them, to instruct them of their duties and responsibilities as state legislators, right? Straight out of their handbook, right? That tells them what their job is, which is the North Carolina Constitution, right? So there you go. We've laid it out. We've given them a chance to do the right thing. We have not heard back from any of them. This went out to a few hundred, right?
Like, let me see if I can show you guys the list. It's, I wonder if it's probably too long for me to even post in the description.
Does the description have a character cap?
Yeah.
Oh.
Hang on. Let me see. I don't know if I can share this because well, anyway, it's a few hundred. It's a different section.
Yeah. So we haven't heard anything from anybody from the General Assembly that they received this, that they're looking into it, that they're taking action on it, that they're discussing it, that they're asking for legal advice or anything, right? Which, again, isn't surprising because this is the government that the people seem to want, where the people don't have any power, the people don't have any responsibility. The people say, oh, no, some other person with a title and a position somewhere is going to take care of it. But then when it comes down to them and they come down and shut down their business for months, and now they don't know how to feed their family, then they say, why
is this happening? How could this possibly happen? Like, well,
because
it's suspicious not to hand over your papers, because it's suspicious. Like, you haven't been exercising these rights.
Right.
Jerry says, wow, that was a great plea to the top criminals. I pray that you get relief.
Yeah, exactly. It's, again, we're not expecting them to act and do the right thing or do their jobs or do what they're supposed to do underneath their own constitution, right? The North Carolina Constitution. We just anticipate them doing what they normally do, and that's whatever they want, regardless of what their constitution tells them that they can and can't do, regardless of what their own laws that they pass say that they can and can't do. They're going to ignore it and do whatever they want. And good luck, right? If you go to the 10th Amendment of the U.S. Constitution, the last little couple words is important. It says, the powers and everything that's not listed in the Constitution for the federal government is then delegated or relegated to the states or the people. It says, or the people, the last couple words, or the people, right? Mm-hmm. And if you're part of the people, that means according to the way that they want the government to be set up, or supposedly the way the founding fathers wanted the way it's to be set up, that means if you're the part of the people, then stuff's not working right. You need to take the power and change it. Well, how do you do that? You can try doing it through the system that they have set up, and you're probably going to get results very much like what we have, where they're going to ignore, they're going to delay, they're going to deny, they're going to not hold themselves or each other accountable, and then try to retaliate, right? Wrap you up in the courts, try to get you on something, and then pull you into their system to try to trample you, right? There's plenty of people that are political prisoners in prison in America for having dissenting opinions, for talking about liberty, talking about freedom, talking about justice, and agents of the government come in and crush them and trump up charges and plant things and infiltrate their networks and try to make secret recordings of them and try to entrap them. Just look at Schaefer Cox, right, for a good reference. And this is the system, right? This is the world we inhabit, people. So wake up. If you want to do something to help, to try to help, you can try to contact any of the state legislators here in North Carolina. Again, the links are in the chat somewhere for the House of Representatives and the Senate. You can try to get them and say, hey, have you received this remonstrance? Are you acting on it? Are you going to impeach Chris Freeman? We demand you impeach Chris Freeman. Rockingham County, quote unquote, judge. Right? It's their job to respond, to receive the remonstrance, to respond to it, and to take action. Like, that's their job. But, we're not going to hold our breath. Again, if you want to try to help, you can make some phone calls to them. You can also, if you want to go a different route, if so inclined, call the Rockingham County Sheriff's Office and ask them if the people they have assigned to security for the courthouse are going to trample their oath and the Constitution and my civil liberties, my freedoms, right? Disability rights. If they plan on following this criminal judge's orders, or if they're going to follow their oath. When they took an oath, they didn't take an oath to uphold judge's orders.
Right.
That's not part of the oath. It's the U.S. Constitution, the state constitution, and the state laws, right? Judges are nowhere in that oath, right? So they do it because they work hand in hand with the judges. They work to make revenue for the state and for the county. So if they don't play ball with the judges, and when they bring stuff before the judge that they want to get done, the judge may not play ball with them, right? So it's actually not part of their oath. And it's not really part of their duty because it violates their oath. In the military, you're given classes like every year, I think, on your duty to not follow, to disobey unlawful orders. If you're given an unlawful order, it is your duty to disobey that order and then challenge it. Take it to the person giving it and say, hey, this is unlawful. And if they don't listen and change it, then you go up the chain of command, right? And that's what we've done. We started with the person that's given the unlawful order, and we've gone up the chain of command, quote unquote, in the state government. So if you want to try to call the sheriff's office and talk to them, maybe talk some sense into them, encourage them to honor their oaths, like whoever's attached to security for the courthouse, to not block my access, block me access to the courts, which is violation of constitutional rights, right? Violation of due process. And then you can even ask them if they're for the bailiffs, encourage the bailiffs to honor their oaths and not seize me if Chris Freeman does, in fact, try to hold me in criminal contempt. If I happen to make it past the door, which I doubt they're going to let me pass the door. So,
and in that regard, I would like to have some support on the ground. I know there's a lot of people that have talked about coming out, and this is a peaceful support. We're not asking for screaming and yelling or anything. It's simply a presence to document anything outside. This is me speaking, to document things that happen outside the courthouse. Yeah.
So it's many cameras, things broadcasting for tomorrow morning showdown. Again, it's 8:30 Tuesday, October 6th, which is tomorrow, at the Rockingham County Justice Center. If you don't want to hold a camera and you just want to sit on the corner and hold a sign, we got some signs you can hold. But we're trying to get as many people out as we can to show this injustice, to highlight it. And maybe if they realize that the world is watching, millions of people are watching them trample human rights live, that maybe they won't do it. And again, you can call and encourage them not to at the sheriff's department. You can call and talk to whoever's over the jail and say, hey, last time that you guys kidnapped this man and held him for ransom, like you tortured him, and have you guys done any training on the Americans with Disabilities Act? Do you realize that, it's a violation of rights to cuff a blind person behind their back and to strip them of their aids? It's like you wouldn't strip a hearing aid off of somebody that's deaf, or spectacles off somebody's face if they need them to see. Like, right? These glasses I wear are prescription. They don't have anything to assist my visual acuity. They have a prescribed darkness to block out light. That's what has been prescribed to me by the blind rehab doctors. So, and my hat, like, even though they didn't issue my hat, they recommend I wear a hat. They recommend blind people in general wear hats. This bill is another protection for not hitting your head if you have an overhead obstacle. And for me in particular, it helps block light. So those are things if you want to get involved and assist. Again, you can try the state legislators. You can try the Attorney General's office. You can try the governor's office or Lieutenant Governor's office. You can try all these things that we've tried, right? You can try, if you want to try the FBI Civil Rights Division, you can try them. You can try the DOJ. I don't know. Try any avenue you want. Just don't hold your breath. Yeah. Hopefully this experience, like, if you do get involved, if you don't think we're telling the truth, then go for it. Give it a try. See if you can get somebody from the state or federal level to hold these criminals accountable. And I don't think they're going to do it. I think
maybe some magic words that we don't know.
Yeah. Yeah. I would be incredibly surprised if there is some kind of action taken that resembles justice tomorrow.
Yeah.
So
another thing you can reach out to is the quote mainstream media, local and national. I think the more voices that we have speaking about this, whether it be through phone calls to the legislator, to the General Assembly, to the Sheriff's Department, to the media of any kind. I think it helps. The raising awareness, getting more eyes pointing this way, and helps the people who are performing these criminal acts. The more people who are speaking, it helps them see that, oh, maybe I'm not doing this in the shadows.
They feel emboldened that about doing more crimes and doing more heinous injustices when they're not caught, when they get to do it in the dark. So
yeah, it's not dark anymore.
Yeah, you can call, the DA's office or the clerk's office in the Rockingham County Court. So you can call the North Carolina administration of the courts. You can call anybody you want to call to try to redress grievances of the injustices that you've witnessed that we've highlighted on this channel. Mm-hmm. And go ahead.
What I'm saying is that even though it seems fruitless at times when they hang up on you or they laugh at you or they tell you to get a lawyer or whatever, and you're not seeing the results that you hope to see, perhaps, just raising your voice makes a difference. If not into the system, to the other people who are speaking at your side, because it means a lot to me knowing that you guys are stepping up. And then I think it does have an effect that these criminals aren't as emboldened or are starting to notice that they're being noticed.
And well, it's like you guys witnessed on the streets of Madison, right? Where they get their boldness from trying to hide in the crowd. And then once people were being picked out of the crowd and identified, then they're like, oh no, we need to find another way to hide. Mm-hmm. So then they cover up.
They wear this full-on head mask.
So they act in disguise to try to deprive people of constitutional rights, which you guys just read that federal statute, right? So they're doing anything they can to hide themselves from being accountable for their actions. And it's the same thing in government. The criminals in government are doing the same thing. And so if we expose them, if we get enough voices, enough people calling, enough people emailing, enough people saying, stop, enough's enough. We see you. We know what you're doing. Maybe they will wake up. Maybe they'll grow a conscience. Maybe they'll opt out. Maybe they will step up and actually do their job and hold somebody accountable. So I think that's it for our stream. Do you want to have a panel or do you just want to check super chats or what?
I'm going to read some stuff. Maybe give me just a second.
Some comments.
Yeah. I mean, if you guys are interested in making phone calls, I can stay live on my panel here and invite you to the panel to do some phone calls. And that way it's documented. If you're up for that, you can toss a 1 in if that sounds interesting.
So I think to reword that.
Go ahead.
I think she's asking if anyone is interested in calling any of these numbers for any kind of accountability and would like to do so live from your phone while being broadcasted on the panel,
right?
Then let us know in the chat if you're interested in that idea. If you guys want to see or hear that kind of content, give us a 1.
Chat news now. Oh my God, sister, I'm trying to get a hold of you. Chat news now. If somebody's trying to get a hold of us, the best way to do that is insightisfree@gmail.com. So sometimes people switch out the I's and the L's and get it confused, but it's insightisfree@gmail.com. We'll put it in the chat again.
Yeah. And if anybody knows any disability lawyers that you think would be able to assist in this case or any of my cases, please send them our way. We get any response from?
I got 1-1.
1-1.
They want Eric on the panel.
Eric's got other things to do.
Yeah, Eric. They're trying to yell at Eric here. That's
all right. So
chillax, yo.
Read any comments or super chats, and then
this Googled ADA violations. The fines have been raised from $75,000 for one violation to $150,000 for any after the first. All right. Well, yeah, somebody enforces it. This Love Logic says slavery never ended in South Carolina. I think they mean North Carolina. Now you're the victim of slave chasers because you're blind and therefore an easy victim for their bigotry. Yeah. Whew. Pretty rough, man. All right. Nothing? Okay. Cool.
Good. Did you catch up on all super chats or anything? Is there a way to pull them up?
I don't know. Swamp Fox was in here for a minute. Carolina Guardian. I'm rewinding the chat, guys. So if I comment on something that's like way old, just bear with me.
Yeah, I think we're still trying to get Swamp Fox up to 1,000. I think they're planning on being there tomorrow. So if you could go over to an SC Swamp Fox and give her a sub, trying to get everybody that's going to be out here up to 1,000 or as close as we can so that they can broadcast live.
All right.
Again?
Yeah, it's fine.
All right. Thanks again. If we missed your comment or super chat, thank you for participating. And if you want to do more, then she's going to post this information and maybe it's links in the description for the contact lists and all that.
Yeah.
So thanks again. Peace and love. And Deo Presto Liber.